Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too, because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. In the bustling halls of Crestwood Middle School, a storm was brewing. 12-year-old Maya Johnson, a quiet girl with a fierce spirit, lay crumpled against the lockers, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. The chaos of the school day faded into the background as Officer Jake Thompson, a broad-shouldered white cop, loomed over her, his voice a thunderous accusation. "Get up, girl. You think you can just start fights and get away with it?" His words cut through the air like a knife, and Maya felt the weight of his disdain pressing down on her. She didn't move, her small frame trembling as she pressed her palm against a wound, the warmth of her blood contrasting sharply with the cold linoleum floor. Behind Officer Thompson, a group of boys snickered, their faces twisted with a mix of guilt and amusement. Just moments before, they had shoved Maya into the lockers, taunting her with slurs that echoed in her mind. "You don't belong here," they had chanted, their words a venomous reminder of the prejudice she faced daily. "Get up." Thompson barked again, his finger jabbing toward her like a weapon. Maya's heart raced not from fear, but from a fire igniting within her. "I didn't do anything," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the murmurs of the growing crowd. "Look at you," he sneered, his eyes narrowing. "You're a disruption. You're bleeding all over school property." The word hung in the air, a label she had grown accustomed to. She was always a disruption, the mistake in their neatly organized world. As students gathered, their eyes wide with mix of curiosity and fear, Maya felt the weight of their silence. Teachers stood frozen, unwilling to intervene, paralyzed by the sight of a uniformed officer berating a small black girl. Maya gripped the floor, her mother's words echoing in her mind. "Your silence is your shield." But in that moment, her silence only seemed to fuel Thompson's rage. "You think you're tough?" he spat, leaning closer. "You think you can come in here and play the victim? Not on my watch." Blood dripped from her chin, staining his polished boots. The humiliation burned deeper than the physical pain. Just then, a voice broke through the tension. "She didn't do anything." A boy from the back of the crowd spoke up, his voice cracking with fear. Thompson turned, his expression darkening. "Shut it, kid," he barked, silencing the boy and sending a ripple of fear through the onlookers. Maya pressed her forehead against the lockers, her vision blurring. She forced herself to sit up straighter, refusing to cower. Thompson noticed and scoffed. "You people always looking for trouble," he sneered, the words dripping with contempt at that moment. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Maya's father, David Johnson, a decorated veteran, strode forward with purpose. His presence commanded attention, and the crowd parted as he approached, flanked by a group of his fellow veterans, all wearing expressions of determination. "Get your hands off my daughter!" David's voice boomed, calm yet filled with an undeniable authority. The hallway fell silent, the tension palpable as Thompson's grip faltered. "Wait! She attacked those boys!" Thompson stammered, desperation creeping into his voice. But David stepped closer, his eyes locked onto Thompson's with a fierce intensity. "You think it's your job to handcuff a bleeding child? To humiliate her in front of her peers?" His words resonated, echoing to the hall like a rallying cry. The veterans behind David shifted, their presence a wall of solidarity. "You don't intimidate me," Thompson retorted, but his bravado was fading. David took another step forward, his voice dropping to a low growl. "I've led men into combat. I've faced down threats that would make you tremble. You don't run anything while I'm here." Maya felt the cuff slip loose as Thompson's grip weakened. She stumbled into her father's embrace, the warmth of his strength enveloping her. "You're safe now, baby girl," he murmured, his voice soothing. For the first time that day, Maya felt a flicker of hope. David turned to the crowd, his voice rising. "Look at her," he shouted, pointing at Maya, blood streaking her uniform. "You all saw her attacked. You all saw her bleed, and yet none of you spoke. This man chose to humiliate her instead of protect her. That is not justice. That is cowardice." The students began to murmur, phones emerging as they recorded the unfolding drama. David reached into his pocket, pulling out a challenge coin, its surface gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "This isn't just metal," he declared. "This is earned. I fought for a country that promised better than this. My daughter deserves better than this." The veterans stepped forward, each revealing their own insignias and medals, a testament to their service. The hallways shimmered with the weight of their collective sacrifice. "This man," David pointed at Thompson, "is not fit to wear a badge. Not in my country. Not in front of my child." The crowd erupted in whispers, the atmosphere shifting as the truth began to take root. Thompson's face drained of color, his authority crumbling under the weight of David's words. "You'll answer for this," David warned, his voice steady as he turned to leave, cradling Maya in his arms. The veterans followed, their boots echoing like a war drum. The fallout was immediate. The video spread across the city, igniting outrage and calls for justice. Thompson was suspended, then fired, his name forever etched in shame. Days later, as Maya sat beside her father on their porch, her head still bandaged, she whispered, "Dad, do you think it'll ever stop? People hating me for just being me." David looked at her, his eyes filled with love and truth. "The world may not stop hating, but it will never stop facing men like me and women like you who refuse to bow. And that's how we win. Not with silence, but with truth." Maya leaned against him, her heart swelling with hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she smiled for the first time in days, knowing that together they would face whatever came next. But just as they settled into the quiet of the evening, a loud knock echoed from the front door. David's expression shifted, a mix of concern and determination crossing his face. "Stay here, Maya," he instructed, his voice firm. He walked toward the door, the weight of the day still heavy on his shoulders. As he opened the door, a group of reporters stood outside, cameras flashing and microphones poised. "Mr. Johnson, can we get a statement regarding the incident at Crestwood Middle School?" one of them shouted, pushing forward. David took a deep breath, glancing back at Maya, who watched with wide eyes. This was the moment he had anticipated, the moment that could change everything. He stepped forward, ready to speak, but before he could utter a word, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. IT was one of the boys who had bullied Maya, his face pale and remorseful. I need to say something," he stammered, pushing through the throng of reporters. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on him as he took a deep breath, his voice trembling. "I was wrong. We were wrong. Maya didn't deserve what happened to her. We pushed her and she didn't fight back. We just didn't want her here." The confession hung in the air, a shocking revelation that shifted the narrative entirely. David's heart raced as he exchanged glances with Maya, who looked equally stunned. This was the moment they had both hoped for, a chance for truth to break through the walls of prejudice and fear. As the reporters scrambled to capture every word, David felt a surge of pride for his daughter and the courage it took for this boy to step forward. The tide was turning, and with it, the possibility of change. But just as the boy finished speaking, a police car pulled up the curb, lights flashing. David's heart sank as he recognized the officers stepping out. It was Officer Thompson, his face twisted with anger and desperation. "What's going on here?" he barked, striding toward the group. The atmosphere shifted again, tension crackling in the air. David stepped forward, ready to defend his daughter and the truth that was finally emerging. "You're not welcome here, Thompson," he said, his voice steady. "Not after what you did." The crowd murmured, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Maya felt a mix of fear and determination. This was her chance to stand up, to reclaim her story. She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "You don't get to decide who belongs here anymore." As the confrontation escalated, the stakes grew higher. Would they be able to stand their ground against the very system that had failed them? Would the truth prevail, or would fear silence them once again? And just as the tension reached its peak, the scene froze, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next move in this unfolding drama. Do you want to know the fate of the heroes? Please post part 2. Subscribe to the channel and continue watching. Your opinion and support are important to me. Leave it in the comments. Thank you.